He's outside my door right now, drenched in the freezing rain, pounding on the wood, begging for a second chance. But the mark on my neck is a faded scar, and the bond we once shared is dead. I broke it myself. Let me tell you exactly why. They tell you that a fated mate bond is absolute. In all the biology textbooks and romantic novels, the narrative is the same. When an alpha and an omega find each other, the universe aligns. Their scents weave together into an unbreakable tether, their souls lock into place, and the rest of the world fades away. For a long time, I believed that lie. I believed it because when I met Tristan Hayes, the scent of petrichor and sharp cedarwood completely overwhelmed my senses, rendering me blind to the red flags that were practically waving in my face. We met 3 years ago at a charity gala in downtown Chicago. I was a junior interior designer working under a demanding boss, and Tristan was already a titan in corporate acquisitions. The moment our eyes met across the ballroom, the pull was gravitational. My inner omega purred a deep, instinctual hum of recognition. Within weeks, we were inseparable. Within 6 months, during a weekend getaway to a cabin in Aspen, he bit the juncture of my neck and claimed me. The mating mark was a dark, bruising crescent that healed into a beautiful scar, a permanent declaration that I belonged to him and he to me. My scent, which was a soft blend of chamomile and honey, mixed with his cedarwood. We were perfect. But perfection is usually a veneer for something rotten beneath. My best friend Nolan Reed was the only beta who didn't look at our relationship through rose-colored glasses. Nolan had known Tristan's social circle for years. Over coffee one afternoon, long before Tristan and I were mated, Nolan had warned me. "Just be careful, Caleb," Nolan had said, stirring his espresso with a frown. "Tristan has a ghost. His name is Gabriel Finch. They were together for 4 years before Gabriel left him for some European aristocrat. Tristan was destroyed. Just make sure you aren't a band-aid." I had laughed it off. An alpha couldn't fake a fated mate bond. Biology didn't allow it. But I underestimated the human heart's capacity to cling to the past, even when biology dictates otherwise. Our marriage was blissful for 2 years. We bought a stunning penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. We adopted a golden retriever named Barnaby. We talked about having pups. Then, on a random Tuesday in October, the ghost came back to life. Gabriel returned to Chicago. His European aristocrat had turned out to be an abusive, controlling alpha who had drained Gabriel's trust fund and left him stranded. Gabriel was traumatized, completely broke, and desperate. And who did he call his first love? His safe harbor? Tristan. At first, I tried to be the understanding omega. My alpha's protective instincts were triggered. It was natural for him to want to help someone he once cared about. Tristan assured me it was strictly platonic, a matter of human decency. He paid for Gabriel to stay in a nice hotel while the omega got back on his feet. But then the boundaries began to blur slowly at first, then with terrifying speed. It started with late nights at the office that weren't actually at the office. Tristan would come home at 2 a.m., his cedar scent muddied by the heavy cloying aroma of vanilla and white musk Gabriel's scent. When I asked him about it, Tristan would sigh, rubbing his temples in exhaustion. "He had a panic attack, Caleb. He's terrified his ex is going to track him down. I had to sit with him until he calmed down. You know you're my mate. Don't be insecure." The word insecure became his favorite weapon. Whenever I pointed out that his decency was crossing the line into emotional infidelity, I was gaslit into believing my omega instincts were just acting up. I was being paranoid. I was being uncharitable to a victim. The turning point happened the week of our 2nd anniversary. I had planned a massive surprise dinner at Alinea, a reservation that took me 6 months to secure. I sat at our table for 2 hours checking my phone as the ice in my water melted. Tristan never showed. He didn't even text. When I finally went home, utterly humiliated, I found him pacing our living room looking panicked. Gabriel ended up in the emergency room. Tristan blurted out before I could even drop my coat. He thought he was having a heart attack. It was a severe anxiety spiral. I had to be there. On our anniversary, Tristan. I asked, my voice trembling. The mate bond connecting us was pulsing with a dull, nauseating ache. I could feel his distress, but it wasn't for me. It was for Gabriel. He couldn't call Nolan. He couldn't call a nurse. He had to call my husband. Tristan ran a hand through his hair, glaring at me. He has no one else. Caleb. Stop making everything about you. That night, while Tristan slept on the couch, I did something I had never done before. I opened his laptop. I didn't have to dig deep. Right there in his email was a correspondence with a real estate agent. Tristan hadn't just been visiting Gabriel at a hotel. 2 weeks prior, he had signed a lease on a luxury townhouse in Lincoln Park for Gabriel. The rent was an exorbitant amount, all paid from an account Tristan had never mentioned to me. My heart didn't just break, it shattered into jagged, bleeding pieces. The fated mate bond on my neck burned as if a branding iron had been pressed against it. He was keeping secrets. He was building a second life to shelter the man he had never truly gotten over. I stared at the screen as the chamomile and honey scent of my distress filled the dark room, turning sour and putrid. The final nail in the coffin of our marriage came 1 month later on the evening of my younger sister Chloe's wedding. Tristan had promised, sworn on our bond, that he would be by my side. He knew how important my family was to me. But an hour before the ceremony, he sent a text emergency at work. Cannot make it. So sorry, Caleb. Make my excuses to Chloe. I stood in the vestibule of the church, my phone heavy in my hand, staring at the message. The bond in my chest felt hollow, like a cavern echoing with lies. I didn't believe the work excuse for a second. I didn't go to the wedding reception. Instead, I got into my car and drove straight to Lincoln Park. The rain was coming down in sheets, washing the Chicago streets in a blurry neon glow. I parked half a block away from the townhouse Tristan had rented for Gabriel. Through the sheer drapes of the front window, the living room was illuminated by a warm, golden lamp. I stood on the sidewalk, the freezing rain soaking through my formal suit, and watched them. Tristan wasn't working. He was sitting on a plush velvet sofa, and Gabriel was curled into his side, his head resting on Tristan's chest. Tristan's arms were wrapped tightly around the Omega. But it wasn't just a comforting embrace. Tristan was stroking Gabriel's hair, looking down at him, with an expression of such profound, tender devotion that it literally knocked the breath out of my lungs. It was the look he used to give me when we first met. Suddenly Gabriel tilted his head up. Tristan leaned down and their lips brushed. It wasn't a passionate, heat-driven kiss. It was worse. It was a kiss of deep, lingering intimacy. It was a kiss between two people who were entirely in love. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. A strange, terrifying calm washed over me. The mate bond, which relies on mutual emotional sustenance to thrive, suddenly felt like a parasitic vine wrapped around my throat, choking me. I realized then that while biology had chosen me for Tristan, his heart had never stopped choosing Gabriel. I was just a biological convenience, a distraction from his heartbreak. I walked up to the door and pounded on it. A minute later, Tristan opened it. When he saw me standing there dripping wet and shivering, the color drained entirely from his face. The heavy scent of Gabriel's vanilla and white musk poured out of the doorway, suffocating me. "Caleb," Tristan whispered, taking a step back. Gabriel appeared behind him, wearing one of Tristan's oversized college sweatshirts. "Tristan, who is—" Gabriel stopped, his eyes widening. "You didn't have to lie," I said, my voice eerily steady. I looked my mate dead in the eye. "If you wanted him, you just had to be a man and tell me, instead of making me look like a fool while you played house." Tristan's alpha instincts flared, a defensive surge of pheromones hitting the air. "It's not what you think, Caleb. He was crying. He needed comfort. You kissed him, Tristan." I finally snapped, my control fracturing. "I saw you. You missed my sister's wedding to be here, cuddling with your ex on a couch you bought him. Do not insult my intelligence by telling me it's not what I think." Tristan stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind him to shield Gabriel. "Caleb, please. The bond. You know you're my mate. I am bound to you. But Gabriel needs me. You're strong. You have your career, your friends, your family. You are independent. Gabriel has nothing. He is fragile." I stared at him, the realization crashing down on me like an anvil. "You are strong. He is fragile." He wasn't apologizing. He was justifying it. He expected me to tolerate being his biological anchor while he gave his soul and emotional energy to Gabriel. "I may be strong, Tristan," I whispered, wiping the rain from my eyes. "But I refuse to be your second choice." I turned and walked away. I didn't go back to our penthouse. I drove straight to a hotel. For 3 days, I ignored hundreds of calls and texts from Tristan. Instead, I spent those days researching something highly taboo. In the Omegaverse, breaking a fated mate bond is practically unheard of. It is considered a violation of nature, a dangerous procedure that can leave both parties physically ravaged and emotionally scarred. But there was an underground specialist in Chicago, a Dr. Elias Kensington, who performed chemical bond nullification for Omegas fleeing abusive situations. My situation wasn't physically abusive, but it was killing my soul. I sat in Dr. Kensington's sterile steel-grey office later that week. The doctor, an older alpha with tired eyes, looked at me gravely. "Caleb, you understand the risks. Severing a completed bond will cause excruciating pain. Your body will go into shock. Your scent gland may never produce pheromones properly again. You will feel an emptiness that many describe as akin to losing a limb." "Do it," I told him, rolling up my sleeve. "I'd rather be empty than poisoned." The procedure was a series of intense, agonizing injections directly into the scent gland and the mating mark on my neck. The moment the serum hit my bloodstream, I screamed. It felt like liquid fire was being injected into my veins. My inner wolf thrashed wildly, howling in agony, as the invisible tether connecting my mind to Tristan's was violently snapped. Blood poured from the crescent scar on my neck, soaking my shirt. I passed out from the pain. When I woke up 2 days later, in a clinical recovery bed, the world was different. I was pale, weak, and my neck was heavily bandaged. But when I reached inward, searching for the warm hum of cedarwood and the constant emotional feedback of my alpha, there was nothing. Total, absolute silence. The bond was dead. I was free. I went to the penthouse one last time while I knew Tristan was at work. I packed everything I owned into 4 suitcases. I left my wedding ring, my house keys, and the bloody bandages from my neck on the center of the granite kitchen island. Alongside them, I left a single note. "Go take care of Gabriel. You are no longer bound to me." The immediate aftermath of severing a fated mate bond is not a sudden triumphant sense of liberation. It is a hollow, echoing grief. For the first 2 weeks, I lived in my best friend Nolan's spare bedroom, surviving on broth and painkillers. My body went into severe withdrawal. I would wake up at 3 a.m., my hand clutching my chest, gasping for the phantom hum of Tristan's cedarwood scent. My own scent, once a vibrant chamomile and honey, had withered into something faint like dried tea leaves left in the sun. The physical scar on my neck was jagged and raised an ugly, puckered reminder of the violence I had inflicted upon my own biology to escape him. But as the physical agony began to ebb, a profound mental clarity took its place. I wasn't constantly anxious anymore. I wasn't bracing for the next time my husband would abandon me to rush to his ex's side. The silence in my mind was terrifying, but it was mine. According to Nolan Tristan's discovery of the bloody bandages, and my note was catastrophic. Tristan had completely lost his mind. He had torn the penthouse apart, driven by a frenzied feral alpha panic, when he realized he could no longer feel me through the bond. He had rushed to every hospital in downtown Chicago, eventually tracking down Dr. Kensington. Because of patient confidentiality, the doctor refused to confirm anything, but Tristan isn't an idiot. He saw the chemical nullification brochures in the waiting room. For a month, Tristan tried everything to reach me. He hired a private investigator, who Nolan expertly threw off my scent. He sent a parade of expensive lawyers, including a ruthless attorney named Mr. Alistair DuPont, to threaten my boss, Valerie Jenkins, demanding to know my whereabouts. Valerie, bless her heart, told DuPont to get out of her design firm, or she would call the police for harassment. I funneled all my residual grief and newfound energy into my career. Valerie promoted me to senior designer and handed me the biggest project of my life, redesigning the interiors of the new Beaumont Hotel in the West Loop. I was working 14-hour days selecting imported marble, negotiating with temperamental Italian lighting vendors, and pouring my soul into something that could never wake up one day and tell me it loved someone else. I signed a lease on a beautiful, airy loft not too far from the site. I was healing. I was rebuilding Caleb the individual, not Caleb the Omega, attached to an alpha. While I was rising, Tristan's life was quietly and spectacularly imploding. Nolan, who still ran in those high society circles, kept me updated over weekly Sunday brunches. "You're not going to believe the absolute circus happening in Lincoln Park right now," Nolan said one morning, stabbing a piece of avocado toast with vicious glee. "I don't care about Tristan." I lied, though my pulse did a traitorous little jump. "You'll care about this," Nolan insisted, leaning across the table. Gabriel wasn't just a fragile, broken little Omega. The whole thing was a massive, orchestrated con. I froze my coffee cup, hovering halfway to my mouth. "What are you talking about? Gabriel's European aristocrat ex the abusive alpha who supposedly drained his trust fund and left him stranded." Nolan's eyes gleamed with the triumph of vindicated gossip. "His name is Bastian, and he wasn't an ex. They are still very much together. Bastian is a high-end grifter, and Gabriel is his bait." The puzzle pieces clicked together in my mind with sickening clarity. Gabriel hadn't come back to Chicago because he was desperate. He came back because Tristan was a billionaire with a savior complex. Over the next few weeks, the full extent of the betrayal came to light. While Tristan was destroying our marriage to play knight in shining armor, Gabriel was systematically bleeding him dry. Tristan had given Gabriel access to a premium black card for living expenses and therapy. Gabriel had been withdrawing maximum cash advances and transferring the funds to offshore accounts managed by Bastian. Not only that, but Gabriel had used his proximity to Tristan to steal highly sensitive corporate acquisition data from Tristan's home office, selling insider information to Tristan's rivals. The SEC got involved, Tristan's company was audited, its stock plummeted, and the board of directors forced Tristan to step down as CEO pending an investigation. And Gabriel. The moment the Fed started sniffing around Gabriel and his abusive ex, vanished on a private flight to the Cayman Islands, leaving Tristan holding the bag. Tristan lost his reputation, his company, and millions of dollars. But worst of all, he realized the devastating truth. He had sacrificed his actual fated mate, the one person who loved him unconditionally, for a ghost who saw him as nothing more than an ATM. I felt a brief, sharp pang of pity for him. Betrayal is a bitter poison to swallow. But my pity didn't change the past. He had made his choice, and now he had to sleep in the ruins of the bed he had made. I blocked Tristan's number, completely changed my email, and focused entirely on the grand opening of the Beaumont Hotel. I thought I had seen the last of Tristan Hayes. I thought the universe had finally granted me the clean break I had bled for. But fated mate bonds, even broken ones, leave an invisible crater in the earth, and sometimes people try to crawl back into it. The night of the Beaumont Hotel's grand opening was a triumph. I wore a tailored charcoal suit that fit me perfectly. My hair was styled immaculately, and the raised scar on my neck was proudly visible, a testament to my survival. Valerie introduced me to the city's elite as her star designer. For the first time in years, I felt whole. I felt powerful. I left the party around midnight, stepping out into a torrential downpour. The weather in Chicago had turned violent, a freak autumn storm lashing the city with freezing rain and howling winds. I took a cab back to my West Loop loft, my mind buzzing with the success of the evening. But as I stepped off the elevator and walked down the dimly lit industrial hallway toward my door, I saw a figure slumped against the brick wall. It was him. He's outside my door right now, drenched in the freezing rain, having clearly stood outside the building until a tenant let him in, pounding on the wood, begging for a second chance. Tristan looked like a ghost of the titan he used to be. His expensive trench coat was soaked and stained. He had lost weight, his cheekbones jutting out sharply beneath hollow, dark-ringed eyes. The proud, imposing alpha aura that used to roll off him in waves was completely gone, replaced by the suffocating, sour scent of profound despair. When he heard my footsteps, his head snapped up. He scrambled to his feet, swaying slightly. "Caleb!" He choked out, his voice raw and broken. I stopped 10 feet away from him, my keys tight in my hand. I didn't feel a spark. I didn't feel the familiar tug in my chest. I just felt a cold, quiet detachment. "How did you find where I live, Tristan?" I paid an investigator. He admitted water dripping from his dark hair down his face. "I had to see you." "Please, Caleb, let me inside. Please." "No," I said firmly. "You are trespassing. Leave or I will call building security." He fell to his knees. An alpha. A man who commanded boardrooms and dictated the lives of thousands was kneeling on the concrete floor of my hallway, sobbing. I was wrong. He wept his hands, clutching his chest right where our bond used to anchor him. God, Caleb, I was so wrong. He played me. Gabriel destroyed everything. He didn't love me. He used me to steal from me. It was all a lie. "I know," I said, my voice completely devoid of sympathy. "Nolan told me, I'm sorry for your financial losses, but that has nothing to do with me." Tristan looked up at me, his eyes frantic, wild with grief. "It has everything to do with you. I lost you because of him." I was a fool, Caleb. I was blinded by guilt and the past, and I couldn't see what was right in front of me. "I need you. I need my mate. I am dying without you." He reached a trembling hand out toward me, desperate for a touch, but I stepped back out of his reach. You didn't lose me because Gabriel played you. Tristan. I said my words, slicing through the damp air like glass. You lost me because you chose to be played. You didn't know he was a con artist when you bought him a townhouse. You didn't know he was stealing from you when you kissed him on that couch. You thought he was a helpless victim, and you still chose him over your husband. You didn't come back to me because you suddenly realized you love me. You came back because you have no one else left. He flinched, as if I had struck him across the face. No, I love you. The bond. There is no bond, I interrupted. I stepped closer, tilting my head to the side, exposing the brutal, jagged scar where his mark used to be. The artificial light of the hallway caught the twisted tissue. Tristan stared at the scar, his breath hitching. A horrifying wail tore from his throat. He reached his hands up, hovering them near my neck without touching his fingers, trembling violently. What have you done to yourself, Caleb? What did you do? I freed myself, I whispered. Dr. Kensington did a thorough job. The scent gland is heavily damaged. Even if you tried to bite me again, my body would reject it. I am biologically incapable of mating ever again. Tristan collapsed entirely, his forehead resting against the cold floor, his sobs echoing off the brick walls. He was completely broken. The realization that his actions had permanent, irreversible consequences had finally shattered him. He was begging for a rewind button that did not exist. Go home, Tristan, I told him, stepping past his kneeling form to unlock my door. Mourn the life you threw away, but do it somewhere else. I walked inside my warm, beautiful loft. I didn't look back as I pushed the heavy oak door shut. The heavy click of the deadbolt locking into place was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. I walked over to the large windows overlooking the city, the rain lashing against the glass, and poured myself a glass of expensive wine. My neck still ached sometimes when it rained, but as I took a sip of the wine and looked out at the glowing skyline of Chicago, I smiled. It was the ache of survival. I had broken my own heart to save my soul, and I would do it 1,000 times over. Thank you so much for following Caleb's incredible journey. If this dramatic story of betrayal, karma, and ultimate self-respect kept you on the edge of your seat, please hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Do you think Tristan got what he deserved, or was Caleb's revenge too harsh? Your support means the world, and I'll see you in the next story.